feel free to go back there, write it on a piece of paper, hand it to one of our team members, and they'll gladly bring it up, and Jeff will answer your question. So right now, I'd like to introduce a couple of our whole team. We're going to start by Ms. Kim Labeds, our campaign manager. Darren Akron, IT. Michelle Hutchison. Actually, me and Michelle grew up together, so I should know her.
But I wasn't.
Right. She is one of our design team. Oliver Allen, which is Jeff Allen's brother, and I'd say he's probably our main sign guy, and kind of keeps Jeff calm. And Jeff Schaefer, Grassroots. Ricky Barzell, Grassroots. Mr. Boardwine, he is one of our IT guys / all around communications. Yeah. So, okay. So, please help yourself to refreshments back there. There's water, coffee, cupcakes. Take them home. Everything's got to leave tonight. I'm not freezing them for the fourth time.
These are fresh. These are fresh.
All right. It brings me great pleasure to introduce Jeffrey Allen, the next mayor of the city of Streetsboro.
Got some more people walking in. Mr. Smith.
How are you today?
Okay, thank you, Michael. That's very humbling comments that he makes. We do these things because not enough, you don't hear your candidate. You don't see your candidate. They get behind a keyboard, that's what you hear, that's what you see. See it on a TV, a commercial, Facebook, what have you. I do these things because this is what I believe. I believe that you need to touch your candidate. You need to know who they are, what they stand for. And that's why me and my team decided we would do these things. And with that being said, what we're doing in these events, we're asking you the question. What's the constituents' questions? What's your issues? Where do you see the city going? Where do you want to see it going? And I'll tell you my views and our views. So with that being said, I'm going to open the floor to questions and let's roll. Anybody got a question? Okay. I don't see any questions. Let me talk about the downtown district. I put out a video about the downtown district. I'm very passionate about this. Very passionate about bringing a downtown, a sense of place, sense of community. In our master plan, I've been very involved in the master plan in the since 1991. Very involved in the master plan. Every time we do these things, they cost us a lot of money. We hire a consultant, 200, 100, 400,000. 1 year was 400,000. And we survey the community. And again and again and again, we get the same answers. We need a sense of place. We need a downtown. We need something for the kids. We need somewhere we can call ourselves a community. Well, we've done nothing to achieve these. None of these. None of these things have we done to achieve these goals. I've worked very hard to sculpt the downtown district in the master plan. 2009, I started very hard. I was on council 2014, finished it up. It was very good in 2014. To date, we have no zoning yet. So with that being said, let me explain it a little bit. Mr. Richmond will understand this. In the master plan, you put in the master plan, it's generalities, it's your view, it's your vision. What do we want to see for the city? So you get your vision, your views, that's where we're headed. Then you go and put it into future land use where you would like to see these uses in the land, in the areas of the city. So then you have to go and develop the zoning text in your zoning code. And then we have to go to the voters because we have referendum zoning, which means you, the voters, vote on what the zoning is going to be, whether you approve it or disapprove it for that area. With that being said, since 2014, we've done zero. We've sculpted a master plan from you, from the residents, from what we have spent a lot of money on, on what do you want? What do you want to see? We've surveyed the entire community over and over and over again. and we've done nothing about it. And I say it's time. I say it's time we do something. Our downtown area is shrinking. Walmart sold to Big D's. Big D's is a good company, but they're an E-Trade company. They didn't need the location, but they're good. They do pay taxes. They're a very good business. We still have an opportunity to sculpt that Market Square area. It's ripe. It's ripe for development. And we have a chance to sculpt that if we size it properly for our community. Has to be sized properly so it's lucrative. I see the Facebook posts, people attack me. We can't have this in Streetsboro. We can't have fine dining. We can't have casual dining. Well, I say, why not? Why not? How many of you drive to Main or First and Main? Go to Kent, down to Acorn Alley, Pinecrest. I do. I don't know about you guys, but I do. And the people that attacked me very well knew those locations. So they're going there. So why can't we have that here? We're driving out of town to go get it. Why can't we have it here? Which does two things. Succeeds and gives us a sense of place, a downtown district, a community, and ramps up our revenue stream through economic development, which in turn lightens our loads as property owners for the schools because they're receiving a portion of that. Okay, here we go. All right, that's good. You struck a nerve. That's good. This is what we want.
So explain how you work with the owners of Market Square. Is that where you expect I mean, we had a chance to buy that property for $2 million a couple of years ago, right? In my mind, a great opportunity would have been to buy that property, $2 million. If you want to put a new city hall, that would be a great place to anchor a city center, not at the corner of 14 and 43 like we're doing. And you could have built around, or we could have built around that. So explain how that works. And then you have to have private money see the value in building and investing in the city. Kent, for instance, as you mentioned, their downtown area, they have a larger population and they have a student population that supports that. First and Main and Hudson, obviously the demographic there is very different than what we have here. And that's just our reality. Pinecrest, again, private money, hundreds of millions of dollars were poured into that. So where do we get the private money? How do we work with Market Square? What can you do to bring in the private money to do that?
Great question. How you doing, Mr. Allen? That's a great question. First of all, we did have an opportunity to buy, which I felt we should have and was on board with that. We didn't. It's not a choice that the administration made. That ship sailed. Had a choice to buy the Market Square area. We didn't. That ship sailed. So now your next question is, how do we entice them? How do we bring them here? Correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay, how do we do that is we have to size this properly. We have to make it lucrative. And this is why it's so important to the height of those buildings, so that we can get 4 stories, that we can get condos, office space, retail space. Because now those people are in it to make money. They're developers, they just want money. So as long as it's enticing and lucrative for them, and they can see the return on their dollar, they'll come here. And we have the demographic to support it. Maybe not quite as upscale as some of them you speak of, but definitely casual to fine dining we can support. And if we put that together and we go make presentations to these developers, they'll come. They'll come because they want to make money with their property.
So the owners of Market Square at this point are looking to do what? What are they engaging?
The owners of Market Square at this point.
Aren't they out there trying to find ways to develop the property, since they're the ones paying the taxes on it, as much as we would want that there as well? Instead of a parking lot for Hyundai?
Yeah, correct.
Great question again. Yes, they're out there. I'm sure they're out there. What they do, the people that own it now, their forte is resurrecting dying plazas. That's what they do. They go in, they figure out how to bring somebody in, a new anchor tenant, and rebuild them, make them vibrant again. That's their forte. They're out of Texas. They've put no effort into Streetsboro, none whatsoever at this point, 0. I say while they're sitting on their hands and we're sitting on our hands, we go make a presentation. And we ask them, are you willing to take the next step? Do you want to be a developer? Here's what we can do for you. Here's how we can take the next step. If they don't, then let's go to people that will. Let's see and get a letter of intent from them. What would you sell the property for? So when we go on presentations to people that built First and Main, Pinecrest, so on and so forth, we have the numbers for them. They don't have to do the homework. We lay it out for them. Here it is. If, let's cross this road. Let's say, for instance, they build up Market Square before we get there. Okay? It's shrinking. It's shrinking quick up there. We still have an opportunity. If we don't get aggressive, we're not going to attain it. If something happens there and we lose it, we still have an opportunity in behind Walmart, which that's not the center of our town anymore, but that's still a nice piece of property that we could move up there and fix that area too, and we could go after the same.
When you say it's shrinking, what do you mean it's shrinking?
It's shrinking. Well,
Window of opportunity shrinking? Or
window of opportunity is shrinking. Again,
why?
you see Panda Express has been built, Walmart's been sold, Honey Baked Hams has been built, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
All that was part of the vision years ago, prior to it being sold. That keeps shrinking. We still have an opportunity in the Market Square area. Still do. With, the only problem we have is parking. We're gonna have a real problem with parking. So we have to go across Market Square where the field is. We're going to have to use that field towards Shawnee and use that for parking and maybe put a bridge over or what have you to make it attainable.
And I love the thought and the vision, okay? And I would love to have that in my city. Let me make a comparison. If I go shopping for a house and I see a house I like, but around that house are a bunch of unoccupied buildings, which we have Big Boy, Shell, Arby's, and then the other, what is that other shopping center over there that had like 24/7 fitnesses in it?
Liberty.
Yeah, a bunch of unoccupied across the street from that unoccupied. Guess what? I may like that house, but I'm not going to buy the house around a commercial. Is no different. Why would somebody want to develop something around a bunch of unoccupied properties? Well, that's one thing. And then I mentioned this, and I don't bring up the things I bring up to you, only to you. I
No,
brought
I
it
know
up
you-
to
I've seen your post on
Roska as well, and I brought him up to John Hanna as well, because the vision's great, but it's the plan and the reality of the plan. Now I lost my train of thought. But I guess just the.
With the shop fronts and-
What's that?
And the shop front
So,
vacancies.
yeah, so like, I mean, Big Boy, all that stuff, nothing will ever go in there. You can't make a left into there. You can't make a left out of there. Nobody would ever spend a dime. And then we have Harbor Freight to Staples, and we have a blockade there between the two. Now, it was cut out like it's supposed to be connected, and I don't know if it was required at the time. If it was required, why isn't it required to be that way now? If it wasn't required, why aren't, as city officials, we going out there? And from what I understand, the old general manager of Harbor Freight said that the owners of the two buildings don't get along, and the Staples guy put that up there. Well, we need to bring them together and say, look, this is better for your business, both of your business. It's a danger. Harbor Freight, thank God we have a Harbor Freight that can support that building and that business there without being able to make a left out of there, because not much would. And then we'd have another empty building. But if I was shopping at Harbor Freight and I could cut through Staples so I could get out to that light and make a left, I'd be much more likely to stop into Staples and buy something, and vice versa. And we need to take Shell and Arby's and all that, and whoever goes in to redevelop that stuff, we need to make a requirement that part of your redevelopment is going to be that the street has to cut through to that light, or there has to be a way out of there. And I think when we go to sell that to people, we have to say, look, you will have a way in and out, and you'll be able to put up a sign at the end so everybody knows what all the different places are that you can go in. I mean, that's just my thoughts and the only solution I can think of to that. But that worries me more than Market Square does as far as an eyesore on the city, because 43 and 14 are one of the busiest intersections, if not the busiest intersection in Northeast Ohio. Everybody going by there, looks at that and sees that. And that's the impression they get of Streetsboro. And I was telling Nick earlier, I was driving with one of my colleagues to a meeting, and we're coming up 14, and he didn't know I lived in Streetsboro. And he's like, man, what a depressed area. Even TGI Fridays couldn't make it there. I said, well, it wasn't a Fridays, it was a Big Boy. I said, not that that matters. And I said, the issue is that you can't make a left in or out. The road is so busy, and it wasn't developed back in the day. It wasn't expected to be that busy. But we've got to do something to get the eyesores out, and nobody's going to want to develop around that, just like I wouldn't want to buy a house around a bunch of foreclosed homes.
I understand where you're going. I think you had vacancies. Let's talk about the vacancies of building there. That's why we want to go to these developers with an entire plan, a comprehensive plan. We'll put it together. That's why we have an economic developer. I fought for an economic developer in this community. We didn't have one. We had an economic developer and a planning commission or a planning director shared the same job. When I was on charter review, I voted and fought hard and ran a campaign to separate, which is important. With that salesperson, that's how we put together a presentation to these people, and we show them how it's going to be lucrative to build that market square up. When they build it up, all them Liberty Corners just sold. Liberty Corners just sold to somebody.
Good to know.
But now when that's developed and there's a lot of people there, we have an anchor again. People are going to use Liberty Corners. They're going to park across the street. They're going to walk there. We're going to make that a walkable area. Now you speak of the other vacancies, the ones you can't make a left out of. Bob's Big Boy and so on and so forth. Those, we want to go after UH. We want to go after UH to expand their medical center. That's what we want to do. We want to go after them, try to get them to bring some kind of specialized service here. Something here, so they come. They got it in Richtown. They got it in Ravenna. Why can't we have it here? Cleveland Clinic's in Twinsburg. Why can't we find our niche? It's because we're sitting on our hands. And we're not going to sit on our hands under my lead. We're not. We're going to go out. I'm going to put a economic development board together. And this isn't something new. This isn't something I'm reinventing the wheel. Hudson has them. Several other communities have them. And these things are for no more than to talk about what you're talking about, to generate ideas. How do we fix Harbor Freight? How do we repair these things? How do we come up with a plan? I don't have all the answers, but I guarantee you I'll find them and we'll get there. 1991, I was on the land use plan. 91, going back that far. I proposed that we put bilateral roads down 14 because it's going to be stoplight to stoplight to stoplight. Get on a traffic light reduction plan before it starts and bilateral roads so we can come out with exactly what you said. Didn't happen. What do we have today? What do we have today? Now you ask, how do we get Staples and Harbor Freight to get along? How do you get them along? You need a strong negotiator.
Right.
And that's the beauty of electing me. You have two economic developers. That's what I'm good at. My strongest forte in all of business effort is my negotiation skills, turning deals into win-win for everybody.
I believe
Win-win.
Harbor Freight's in the process of being sold, the building.
Two,
I'm not sure who the name is, but
so it's going to stay Harbor Freight, same thing
Harbor
except,
Freight doesn't own the building.
oh,
Somebody else, both of those buildings are owned by somebody
I
else,
got
and they lease from there.
so they're in process of selling the building,
Yeah,
but the lease
but-
is going to go.
But, yeah, I love the thought of the bigger picture, and I think we have to look down the road. But I also feel like we just have to look at some of these minor things. And I don't know what your thoughts are on our accountability for commercial and residential properties or whatnot, but I put, the Walgreens and the CVS in Streetsboro. Flower beds and grass, they have weeds all over them. They look like total shit. Excuse my English. I've emailed both companies and said, hey, what the heck? You drive by CVS and Walgreens in Aurora and you think you're at the country club. You could go out there and putt on them. So the only variable there is the city and the accountability. The sign down what's that housing development by Steak and Shake that hasn't been built on in 10 years. We got a sign that's faded. You can't even tell the name of the housing development and it was a for sale sign. It wasn't announcing the name of the housing development, and it's rotting there. And nobody has an eye to say, hey, let's go take this sign out of the ground and get rid of it. Nobody has an eye to go to Walgreens and CVS and say, look, you're doing business in our city. We expect you to maintain your properties and make them look beautiful. They're making money here. And
Well, we have codes on the books for all those things, everything. I was asked by Mr. Miller back here about this Ohio building or BP. BP with plywood, there's something on there that we can tell them they need painted. The plywood can be painted. We can tell them that.
I actually brought it up, so it's supposed to be followed up on.
Right. You are, I mean, we enforce our codes, that's it. And when you say these things, I'm not there.
we do enforce our codes?
We need to enforce our codes.
Well, we have
We need to,
a
yes.
zoning inspector now.
Right.
We have a second one now, right?
We
had
have-
one and we hired a second, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We have a part-time zoning inspector now, and I'm not sure what Stacy Veda's title is today. I'm not sure. Not sure with that. I think she's still classified as the inspector, but I don't think she's doing
Oh,
it. I don't know. I know that our
I'll
plan-
volunteer for it if you want.
I know that our,
You don't
I
have
know
to
that
pay
our,
me.
that our planning department is understaffed. It is understaffed, very much so understaffed. Mr. Miller.
Just to let you know, I've made 2 requests to the city in the last 2 weeks on rectifying that BP building, and I haven't heard back.
No, I'll be sure to follow up tomorrow,
Okay,
because I made a request right to the mayor
right. I mean, basically what they have to do is they have to paint that wood
to match the building.
either the gray or green,
Right.
so it's not just raw wood. And I've asked twice now. Because it looks awful.
Does that answer all your questions?
For now. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vasco, I know you got something.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, wherever you want to start. Wherever you want to start. Tom Vasco is in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Fronick did that last time.
Running from,
Yeah,
not the
he
big
was on the
courier, yeah.
courier.
I got a whole list.
Had it highlighted.
I would say along Staples and all of that, if it were me, I would put a 10 to 15 foot green space between the highway and the property, make a common use. Of course, you'll have to get variances and
Where are you talking?
along with Bob's Big Boy Shell, Harbor Freight and Staples, because there's only one way to really safely exit, and that's going to be at the stoplight at Staples there. So if you can make an access, which you're going to have the variance and everything to cross properties, continue that. I would think that would be the best solution. Put a 10 to 15 foot green space from the highway inward, you know, and that way you're going to kind of hide all that shit, you know, but you're going to have access, you know, with a nice common parking space and everything. That's where I would go with it, if possible. Sabra and Shelley, what's your take on that? Is it good? Is it bad? What do you think? Uh-oh.
Let's go there. Let's just do it. Let's do it. I think, anybody watch the video, the Supreme Court hearings? Over and over.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like where we're at, okay? I'm just gonna go there. If I would have been your mayor when this came up, I would have never put this city in a catastrophic liability position. That's where we're at today. Our fate lies within 7 judges. Our fate lies down there. I would have never taken that chance. Not with your money, nor mine, ever. Have a planning commission member here that did what he thought was right. What he thought was right. By the zoning code, by the laws that he was told. And I don't disagree with their stance 100%. I kept pretty quiet up to that stage, pretty quiet. They made their determination that they were not going to allow it. It went to Portage County. We lost. We lost in Portage County. At that point, I got kind of loud. With it, and I put on the agenda to refrain from appealing the decision. The reason I did that is because once you appeal the decision, the civil damages go all the way back from when they denied it. At that time, had we just stopped, there were no civil damages, none, zero. Now it reverts all the way back to the day we said no to planning commission. which is a lot of money. A lot of money. Now, I'm sure the mayor's watching tonight. And he has been on Facebook and talked about this a lot. And I'm disgruntled that he's talked about this lawsuit so much on Facebook. Because if you don't think Shelley's watching this, they are. And if you don't think if we lose that they're not going to use every comment that's made on Facebook, they're going to. And it's going to be a lot of money. Not a little bit, a lot. I own a lot of property here. My brother does. I know all of you own a lot of property. And it's all relative. And we will not, if we lose, we will not be able to pay that liability without being on property tax. Without on your property tax. That's where that will come from. And I would have never, ever put us in this catastrophic liability position. Went to the Hampton Inn when Shelley first came out. They were running running public meetings. They wanted a variance. This is a little complex. If you don't understand, just ask me. In our zoning code, we have an 800-foot setback, front yard setback. You understand this. Everybody understand that? 800 feet setback for your front yard. That means off a diagonal road, 800 feet setback. Shelley and Mr. Groves came and said, listen, if you allow us to mine within 150 feet of the road, within diagonal, we'll give you the property as a park. We'll give it to you in 40 years. Now, it's not so attractive anymore, is it? 40 years from now. Good for our grandkids, not so good for us. Not very attractive. So I sat there and listened to the whole meeting and found out they were going to mine the back. Mr. Gross was going to continue boarding horses the whole time while they were mining and continuing moving forward. In that meeting, I asked him, yes, Mr. Allen, would you cohabitate with us? They said, we don't understand what you're saying. I said, well, you're going to cohabitate with Mr. Gross. You're going to give it to us in 40 years. Why not give it to us today? Why not let us have a park today? You mine 50 or 30, whatever. You know, I know it's just an idea. It's a tentative deal. We'd have to work out the deal, but you mine this much, and then we release, and you release, and so on and so forth. But we keep the building, the barn, so on and so forth. Set up Parks and Rec up front. Two Shelley people and Mr. Gross all looked at each other and said, yes. It was a tentative deal, and there were a lot of nuts and bolts to be worked out on it. But it was a deal that was on the table. And the mayor on Facebook, clearly, Mr. Kohler went after him. I looked at the whole thing. I think it's ridiculous that we're putting our laundry out there like that. They went back and forth for hours on it. At the end of the day, he was apprised of the situation. He was apprised in a manner that was not put out there publicly. This is one of the first times I've ever put it out in a public forum, other than the Hampton Inn, because we could end up in a catastrophic liability position. If we win the lawsuit, good for us, hooray. If we lose, we're in trouble. I say it was better than a win-win. There's 300 acres down there. 250 of it could have been a park for the next 20 years. 20 years, could have had a park with a walking trail. I don't know, anybody ever been down there? They have a track down there where they practice the trot. Could have a walking trail. The barn's beautiful inside. I don't know if you've ever been inside the barn. They spent a ton of money in that barn when they first bought it. Could have very well been turned into indoor practice for soccer, wrestling, baseball. Plenty of room in that barn. The office space and the conference room is plenty big enough for a Parks and Rec senior center. Plenty big. I would have took that deal. I wouldn't have took the chance. Glenn chose to take the chance. Let's go all the way. Let's see where it ends up. That's where it's at today. We can talk about this back and forth where it's at. That was my position. Where it's at today is, we got to see what the Supreme Court says. Then we'll go from there. Mr. Lamb.
So if you could change one thing in our current zoning code, what would it be and why?
I would put the town district in the zoning code so we could get a downtown district. Been fighting for it for 10 years. And our zoning code, that's a very broad question because our zoning code is antiquated. 2009, again, we spent, I think, $400,000, $300,000, $400,000, a lot of money in 2009. To update our master plan and our zoning code. Well, nights and nights and days, and a lot of time was spent on both. We've never enacted the zoning. Never. So downtown district would be my first.
Your downtown district, it seems that they keep stretching it out, making it too big. In my opinion, it should be Market Square 4314, not east of 43. They're talking both sides of the road. You know, they're talking about, they don't want high buildings next to ranches. But if you keep it on the other side of the road, you don't even have that issue.
Steve, you're correct. You're 100% correct. The master plan, when it went in, I was on the master plan this time, so were both my opponents, John, Hannon, and Glenn. And it went into the process, and at that time, that's where the downtown district was. They voted with the rest of, I was the only no vote, to expand it and increase it to, I think, 240 or 270 acres. Too big. If we don't keep it small and make it lucrative, it will not be attainable and it will not be sustainable. This goes back to your guys' question. How do we get them here? We get them here because it's lucrative for them. It's lucrative. It makes sense for you to build these. You're going to make money. They're in business to make money. We're going to show them how to make money. If it's 240 acres or 270 acres, we're not going to get it.
Where are they talking? Superior all the way down to Shady Lake?
They're talking from Mount Vernon all the way to Shady Lake. Correct. Correct. Too big.
Would it make sense to start in the center and build out over
Thank you.
time as it grows?
Thank you. And then the height of the
If it
building,
takes off.
skyscraper.
Right, if it
More
takes,
room?
right, there you go, you expand, but if you spread it out, it's not a city center,
Not
it's
a
a,
whole
it's a-
downtown
right.
district.
Because you'll have one group building down by
Yep.
Shady Lake, and another group's gonna buy this area here, and your middle's still open.
It won't be sustainable
It won't,
or attainable.
exactly.
That's fact for sure. And then it'll be a hard sell, going back to your question.
Mhm.
Hard sell. Otherwise, I'll go to a developer and tell them, this is lucrative and there's 270 acres or 240 acres.
Are you familiar with the Cuyahoga Falls, over on State Road and everything that went on there? And I know there was a lot of pressure from the city with the owners of that property and the city. Can we do something similar as far, I don't know what kind of pressure we can put on the owners of the market.
I don't think we need to put pressure on them. I think we need to go to them with a presentation on how they're gonna make money. That's where we start. That's where we start. I am a strong negotiator, and if we have to go there, I'll go there, but I don't think we will. I think when we show them how lucrative it'll be to have that area, just a small area, because we can support that and sustain it, and we will draw from other communities. We'll draw,
And we're talking tear down, right,
tear down and rebuild.
and rebuild.
Yep, has to be, so it's 4 stories. That's what makes it lucrative, and that's why they want to come. Somebody have a question here? Marty? No, I thought somebody raised.
So speaking of the downtown district and with Big D's being such a .com kind of company, they don't need the foot traffic. Do you think that you could get them to sell and put them into an industrial park?
I have no idea. I don't think we need to encompass their property. I
Yeah.
think that the Market Square area only, just that piece, that parcel is 17 acres. And that would work well as long as we get the parking across the street on Market Square and if you told Shawnee. That would work to the size that would be attainable and sustainable in our city.
You can somehow sublease parking off Big D's, because they don't use that parking lot.
Mhm.
Correct.
You sublease, have your parking lots in already.
Big D sold them front lots there off to,
Sherwin.
the Honey Baked Ham guy. He built it and it runs out.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Steve
Schwartz.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Schwartz, smart guy. And he bought that out there, and I'm sure they would sell more space out there, especially if we have an anchor of that character there. We're gonna get Spurs that wanna pick up off of that. Mr. Miller.
Wouldn't you agree there's a bit of a misconception in what you're talking about? I've been watching a lot on social media, and maybe this was covered already, and I apologize if it was, when we say fine dining. In my mind, we can handle a 30-seat Flipside or a Three Palms or a Nano Brewery because Garrettsville has wineries and microbreweries. And I think it's important to clarify that when we talk fine dining, we're not talking Morton Steakhouse.
McDonald's.
We're talking, we're talking higher end casual.
Fine dining is subjective.
Yes.
It's subjective. And we use the word fine dining so everybody would understand we weren't trying to open up a McDonald's. That's why we use fine dining.
Right.
But yes, we're going to tailor it and try to bring in something like a pinstripe, something of that nature that's not out of the world, but above normal, or roadhouse, so to speak.
And Garrettsville has successfully done that.
Yeah, oh yeah,
And,
the mill's awesome.
you know, my opinion when I saw that post and we talked about it was that, you know, everybody wanted to compare it to Hudson and Kent. And I think it's more appropriate to say, listen, if Garrettsville can accomplish this type of thing, we certainly can. So,
Well, you're correct. We look at Kent, Hudson, Garrettsville, we look at all of them. And we size it for our community and we tailor it to our community. Yeah, good question. Mr. Lamb.
Can you explain, okay, so you're interested in Market Square, and I know there's two parcels there. So there's Market Square, then there's where Snap is, which auto owners just purchased recently.
Okay, I knew somebody purchased it. I didn't know.
There you go.
Thank
So
you.
how do we get, if auto owners purchased that for, I think it was $2.5 million, how do we get that whole piece of property? Are we gonna buy it from auto owners?
Do we need it? I don't think we need it. I think we start, just like this gentleman said, I
So
think
you're
we
talking
start
just
right in the
the
Market
plaza.
Square area and we give parking. I think we let that's a pretty nice plaza and they're gonna feed off of our downtown district. Same with the Big D's. I mean, they sold some of their parking lot. I'm sure they would again. And listen, we're talking all these things. They can't happen unless you ask. They can't happen unless you go. They can't happen if you sit on your hands. You gotta put together presentations and go after it. Have to.
I wholeheartedly agree with that too. We were talking about that before. It's like if you're not out there asking, selling, presenting, it's not gonna happen. So,
I've been successful in business. I have. Very successful. The only reason I've been successful is because I didn't sit on my hands. I got aggressive and I went after it. And when I got beat down, I kept going and knocking, persistence, and put together win-wins. And that's how I learned my negotiating skills. When I learned to put together win-win-win deals, life got really easy. And when you make both sides win, it works. It works.
I guess
Mr.
I'm
Schuster.
going to shift gears just
Okay.
a little bit. If you could maybe comment on the city's current road program and maybe specifically address for me your thoughts on micro resurfacing, chip and seal, and their appropriateness in our community.
Okay, our road program, we have a road program. Let's do a little history here. We were almost in fiscal emergency under Tom Wagner. Everybody remember Tom Wagner when he was mayor? We were almost in fiscal emergency. Council and Tom worked very hard. Council had to work on Tom, and then they brought him around and got the 2% income tax increase passed, which I don't like tax and spend, but it was necessary. We were in trouble. Mr. Claypool, how many people know Mr. Claypool? Mr. Claypool did a fine job on council. Tim Claypool is a good man. Tim Claypool put 20% of that away. He fostered and sponsored the ordinance to put 20% of that away for a road program. That's why we have a road program today, because the 2% gave us enough money that we could put 20% of our income tax revenue away for capital improvements, which was supposed to be tailored to road program. Today, it's tailored to every capital improvement there is, including buying trucks for the service department, which that's not what it was intended to do, but that's where it's at. That's why we have a road program. As far as micro surfacing, I don't agree with it unless the road calls for it. If the road is good enough that it can handle a micro surfacing and last, give you longevity, then so be it. If it's not, we need to repair the road properly so it lasts a long time. If we're gonna spend money, let's spend it right so it lasts a long time.
I too was gonna shift gears a little bit. Part of being the mayor is offering a vision for development and economic growth and vitality and all of those things, and you've done a fine job explaining your point of view on that. But part of being the mayor is being the chief executive of the city and running its various departments. Could you talk a little bit about the current state of, or your observations of the service department, the Parks and Rec department, the water, police, fire, I'd just like to hear sort of, are there opportunities for improvement? If so, in which department or in what way?
That's a big laundry list, Marty.
Let's back off for a second.
Yep, that's
So
all right.
I think, or at least I think our city's reputation in police and fire is exceptional. I think our city's reputation in our service department is quite good. I'm not on social media, so I don't get to see all the posts.
Smart
My
guy.
my streets are clear, and then but I drive to Canton every day for work. So I pass through Kent, and I pass through Brimfield, and I pass through Mogador, and all that stuff. And when it snows, I leave here at 6:30. Our roads are clear. Sugar Bush Knolls aren't clear. Kent's not clear. Brimfield's not clear. The highways are, but everything else isn't. So, I mean, the city, I think, is pretty high functioning in the service department. I think the Parks and Rec, with limited resources, is pretty high functioning. Every time I turn on the water, it comes out clean. So that's lucky.
That's debatable.
Depending on what time
Our
of
service
day.
department.
Yeah, so just, I mean, pick and
Our
choose,
fire-
pick and choose which
No, I am
departments you think
from
have.
our fire department does a stellar job. And whoever's running has supported everything they need, and we made sure they have. They do a very good job. Police, the same thing. Our police department does a very good job. They're good people. Service department, Bill Miller is a very tough guy. He gets a lot done with limited resources. We have, when I got on council, fostered buying a street sweeper and make trucks and so on and so forth. They work very hard and accomplish a lot more than other cities do with a lot less to work with. They are definitely, how do I say this? They need some facilities. I don't know if you've been down to their building. It's like the Bat Cave down there. It's like living in a Bat Cave. It's an old pole barn. Not that pole barns aren't okay, but that pole barn has outlived its capacity by far. Water department, I'm just gonna go there. I think after they got rid of Mr. Kukelson, I think our water department and our water quality has dropped a lot. There's been a lot of questions about it. And I do, and I disagreed with that move, and I still disagree with that move. Any other departments? Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec. I think Parks and Rec could offer a lot more programming for the same money we're doing today. And that is one of my visions. I want to partner with Portage County on the Gressers property. You know where that's at? You know where it's at? Anybody in here know where it's at? Some do, some don't. Beautiful piece of property. I mean, this is a sunny lake. I think it's more beautiful than Sunny Lake.
Where is it? What is it?
It's between Ferguson Road and Ravenna Road. It's on
That's
that
the train track.
catty corner.
Got it.
Beautiful, beautiful, Marty. And guess what? We own it through Parks and Rec in Portage County. We paid for it when we passed that Parks and Rec Portage County levy. They were buying property. That's what they used that money for. They bought it. I tried to get the city to buy it. I wanted the city to buy that property because then we could have a Sunny Lake. We could have something of that caliber in our community. We didn't, they did. But your money's paying for it. Your money, my money, all our money's paying for it. And we can partner with them. We can invest a little money, work with them, and we can use it as it's our own. And it's beautiful. And we can do that for low money. Low money, so we can have no cost family fun. Single moms.
That's my
People-
question. What are you doing for these kids in this
Well,
community?
there you go, Rick.
Amen, sister.
Right here, you'll be able to go over
I don't
there.
really, no
I'd like
offense
to see
against
some
anybody else, but I don't really care about building buildings and all this
Let's see
nonsense
some.
stuff that doesn't.
Throw it out there.
No offense, Jeff.
Throw it, put your hand up, throw it out there.
Tim, come over here.
Jeff, right here.
I'll get your whole. We can't attain these things. I think that our current city park could be maintained nicer, much nicer.
Is it a resource allocation issue? Are we spending too much money in one department at the expense of the service department or at the expense of the Parks and Rec department?
I think,
Or is there not enough money and therefore we need development and then we have a better tax base and then we can buy, but you can't say, oh, the city needs new trucks and a
we've
new
been
pole barn.
spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of money. And we've had money in Parks and Rec. When I got on council, let's go there. When I first got on council, first thing I did, the administration proposed spending $100,000 down at the Commons Heritage Park. We're gonna spend $100,000 down there for a parking lot. $100,000. I got on council and I said, oh, no, hell no, this ain't working. Excuse my language. We're not spending $100,000 there. I, through very hard work, whipping the votes on council, walking the entire city park with R&T fence. Anybody know Rod? Grew up here. He offered his services to go over there and write an estimate to rehab all those fields. For $28,000, we rehabbed every one of them backstops and put some fencing in and bought some ball diamond, and we redirected $100,000 into City Park, where 2,000 residents a year use it, as opposed to 50 down here. It's all about where we spend our money, Morty. It's all about where we spend it and how we spend it. Not that a lot of people don't like the dog park, but again, it's open and usable. Go ahead, Jesse.
Mr. Jeff, you know you're my favorite. What are you doing for these kids?
Right there. No cost family fun. I wanna partner with Portage County Parks, open that up over there. So you can take your kids over there and we can have pavilions and possibly a paddle boat and so on and so forth. And in the downtown district, hopefully we can get it. Developers in there that'll have a family fun center.
Yeah, because it's annoying every time my kids want to do something, I gotta take them to some other city. And I mean, not that we don't like Zip City, but I mean, let's face it, that place is a ripoff. And, you know, you can only do so many things there before you're done.
Well, that's not bad enough in our business.
That's why I said, like, I'm not, but you know, I'm very honest. Listen, my son loves to jump all day. I'll let him jump. That's fine. We can go to Zip City. But I mean, we gotta go to a different city to go to a movie. You know, we gotta do all this other stuff outside of here.
Bowling, roller skating.
I mean, we got all these buildings that sit around here empty. Why don't you put something in there that these kids can do? Put a roller skating place over here. Put some movie theater in. Put some place for these kids to swim in over here.
I agree.
I mean, like, I got a pool in my backyard, but that doesn't mean everybody else does. Yeah.
Everybody's coming to your house. That's my first one.
They can't swim in the winter, but they like to swim. I like to swim, so.
Jesse, that is private development. That is private development, but we will go after them things in the downtown district. Again, if you go up to Pinecrest, have you been there? If you go into Pinstripes, they have a five-lane bowling alley and some bocce ball courts, 2 bocce ball courts. And they have it set up upstairs for the millennials, the college kids. Downstairs is kind of like the family dining. And
So we
then,
can drink while our kids are playing.
well, across the street, they have a place called Family Fun. Then they upstairs across the street, they have a theater. They have a theater that's an upscale theater. You can go in there and order drinks and popcorn and they bring it to you and you lean back in your chair.
Well, I would be highly upset if I vote for you for mayor and there is nothing that comes about for these kids to do. And you know I'm
Are you
hard,
gonna
Jeff
chase
Allen.
me down? Good, thank you.
And I had one more question for you. So, I know where I live, down off 303, we still are not tapped into the city water. What are we gonna do about that? What's your plans for us? Because I know there's a lot of people on my road. For instance, my well went out, not last summer, the summer before. So, you know, that's tens of thousands of dollars there, you know, digging it out, putting a new well in, all this stuff. It was a pain, okay? The yard tore up in the middle of summer with all my kids, you know, all this nonsense. But we can't tap into city water because there's nowhere to tap into, but yet there's a housing development that they built years ago up behind me and they have city water, so.
We need connectivity for our water, we do need. We need more lines, and lines create quality because then you create loops.
Mhm.
And your subdivision is one of them that should have been on the list a long time ago.
Yeah.
Should have been a long time ago,
So you're gonna do something about that?
absolutely.
Our current mayor, Mr. Braska, speaks of all the grants he has gotten in the last few years since he's been in office.
Yeah.
Do you think when you were mayor, you'll be able to obtain those same grants?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not gonna beat on Glenn. Glenn's done a nice job of getting the grants, but he's done such a nice job because of GPD. GPD's connected, they're in the right place right now, and they're getting all the grants for us. They're a good company, very good company. Second of all, he campaigns on that nobody else got them prior to him. Well, that's just incorrect. But you can go after more grants when you can match it, because you have to match most of them. And he's had money. Under Tom Wagner, we were almost under fiscal emergency. You understand that? That was 4 years prior to him. We passed the 2% prior to Glenn. 2% got passed 2 years into Tom Wagner's term. Art Scott seen 1 year of the money. One mayor seen 1 year of that amount of money until Glenn. 1 year. 1 year. And then Glenn had a clean slate, no lawsuits, plenty of money. No lawsuits, plenty of money. And I'm not beating on Glenn. Glenn's done some good things. He has done some good things. He's done some things that I strongly disagree with. But at the end of the day, it's time to take the next step. And that's why I'm running. It's time to take the next step. I don't think he has a vision that I have. He definitely doesn't have the experience I have in business. I think this community is in a position, as again, a businessman, we're in a position, or Marty mentioned, we need to make a lot of money. We've spent a lot of money. We passed a GAP policy for our carryover fund, which is general accounting practices. Before me, Mr. Mishniak, Mr. Claypool left council, this thing got passed. We had a very good carryover. We kept ramping it up the whole time we were on council. Kept climbing. We were concerned when we left where that would go. Passed a general accounting practices policy. 25% of income tax. Our income tax is about $12 million a year. So it's about $3.1, $3.2 million we have to keep. That gives us, in case big companies leave, what have you, we have money to operate on. Rainy day fund, so to speak. That was quite large when I left council. Today, we're about $110,000 shy of that mark. About $110,000 shy of being at that gap mark. 110, 150, 90. I did the math today. There's a couple of things laying out there, but it's very close. I think when I left council, we were 2.3 over. That was 18 months ago. Think about that. Mike, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. You go in and
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay, two questions. First of all, going back to the parks. You're talking about possibly partnering with Portage County to do something. Myself personally, it seems like we have too many parks.
God bless you.
Why would we not want to sell some of this, invest that money, and try to make it parks like Sunny Lake, whatever? I mean, you get too many pieces of land, and then you don't have the money for any of them.
Okay, let's go here. First of all, you're preaching to the choir, because I tried to sell Thomas Heritage Park. That property should be developed. I've always thought it should be developed. Council and the administration fought me on it. They have passed legislation that they're not selling it, period. So we have it, so we have to use it. It's never going to be a Sunny Lake, ever. Gressard can be. So I say we ramp up our resources, and we go over there and partner with Portage County. If council was amenable to selling some parks, we would look at it and do that. But not too long ago, a bunch of people came to council and they had a few parks on them, talk about them. And the people that showed up didn't want to sell the park, so the council decided they didn't want to sell them. So that is where the city's at with council. Keep in mind, as a mayor, you have to work with council. They approve the money, they legislate, so on and so forth. And that's where they're at today. So we'll make it the best we can. But I would want to put the money into Gressard so that we could have a Sunny Lake. I think it's a much better amenity.
Second question, something totally different. Going kind of this, I'll say kind of the school issue. Again, a lot of development going in. It seems like the schools get stressed, a lot of kids coming in. Is there any way, is it feasible, is it possible, is it practical to slow down residential growth in the city?
Slow down residential growth. Well, that's a tough question. Well, I think that Meadowview is about maxed out. I think Meadowview is about maxed out, and I don't know anything that's on the horizon.
Meadowview's going to 520 homes.
What's that?
520 homes is what Meadowview will be.
Right, but
Yeah.
but they're busting at the seams right now and developing all the property, correct?
Well, they,
One more phase.
Yeah, and that's.
So I think they just opened it up, correct? They just opened up.
then
phase.
they're cutting through some more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they still have, it's gonna be, I think, 2021 or 2022 is when they expect the final phase to be.
Well, we're not gonna stop that. That's just not stopping. And some of that's progress. Some of it's good, and I understand the pressure on the schools. And to take the pressure off the schools, we need economic growth, we need economic development, so we can ramp up the revenue stream.
Higher priced homes that are generating more in
Some of them,
property.
yeah, as they get bigger. As you go south, they're getting larger and much more money.
Yeah,
I just heard somebody said they're building a $480,000 home over there.
400,000.
400?
But the minimum is 200,000.
Yeah, right.
And that's just the starting price and once you add on, so, I mean, as a whole, our average house value is what in the city, 130?
No, I'd say it's a little higher than that. I'd say it's probably 150, 160. Yeah, I don't know that for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I don't know that number
Just
for sure, but I'm guessing probably even a little higher than that. Probably a little higher than that.
What I've been hearing down there is a lot of your, older people, their kids are out of school, are buying down here.
With the single story ranches. they're-
Correct.
Right, they went in and asked for a variance.
You know, so it's not, it looks like it's really hurting the schools, but the families that are moving in there don't have a lot of kids.
Well, not all of it, just one area.
Yeah.
Just one small area.
Is what they're leaning towards more.
So we live there, him and I, not together.
No,
But, and to your point, there are a lot of people just on my street that move from Solon that don't have children because the property taxes are so much less, they get that much more home. There are a lot of homes with children as well.
That's what, yeah, but I mean,
And now they're going into, they got the villas, which is going in, which is gonna be,
right, it's
probably
turning more
not a lot
towards
of
that.
children, but then they also have the larger homes that are going in that you would expect there to be.
with your comment, in our master plan, it's clearly defined that we need to keep our rural character. And I've fought very hard to keep those areas rural. So we need to concentrate on that. And when I was on the master plan last time, I fought very hard to get some transitional areas because that's where we keep ending up in trouble. We keep ending up in lawsuits because we don't create transitions. We go right from half acre lot to 2 acre lot or half acre to industrial. That creates problems. Creates lawsuits, yada, yada, yada.
When we,
Mark.
when we touched on the subject of the schools, would you share your point of view on the left?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Anyways, we need to preserve our rural character, and I've been a proponent of that, and I agree with that 100%. The levy, we need the levy. We need the levy. I was against the levy back in November. I was against it because of just the sheer size of it is gonna cost me a lot of money, and I didn't do my research. Sitting on my hands, Marty. You know that, you know me. Sitting on my hands, wasn't paying attention. So then I met a few people and I started talking to the moms and seeing what was happening with the community and the children and the programs that were gonna be cut. I said, oh, this is bad. This is really bad. So they were pulling on my heartstrings. And I've always said that these kids only get one shot at it. One shot, and we need to make sure it's the best for them, period. So with that being said, then I did my more research, because I'm that guy, and I had my brother, wherever he went, had Ollie call his banker. Same guy we use. Check on our property value, see what's gonna happen. Here's what's happening with the programs they're cutting. Here's what's gonna happen. Children are gonna lose scholarships, sports, so on and so forth, academics, everything. Really bad. So Ollie calls the banker, and the banker says, listen, if you guys don't pass this, your net worth is gonna be junk the day tomorrow, the day after. It's just gonna plummet. Your property values are gonna plummet the day after. Gonna plummet. So with that being said, we had to support it. So now we're supporting it. And that's where we're at. We're gonna stay there. And I think that it's, well, I know it's the right thing to do, but it is no more than a Band-Aid, Marty. And it's only a Band-Aid unless we get change. We have to have change where we're headed with our schools, where we're headed as a city. If we don't get change 5 years from now, whether you like what I'm saying or you don't like what I'm saying, in 5 years from now, I guarantee you these same conversations will be had again. If we're in the same leadership in 5 years, these conversations are gonna be all over again, same thing. It'll be the same thing all over again. And I do believe the city's ready for change. I believe they're ready for change on both sides. I do believe that. Mr. Hedge.
So so do you agree to give this money back to the same people that are at school right now? Because I think that's wrong. Because we've already seen what they accomplished. Look where we're at today. I don't believe with that. And how are you gonna communicate to change that?
Am I gonna communicate change?
How are you gonna communicate between the city and the schools? Because right now it's not good.
Well, Tim, first of all, it's falling on the kids, and it's not fair to them children. I know you do. And it's not fair to your children, his children, my children when they were there, because of some bad politics locally and at the state level. It's not their fault, and it shouldn't be taken out on the children, period. Period. We need to get this money to the kids. You're asking how I'm gonna work with them. I'm gonna work with them through economic growth, Timmy. I'm going to create a great working relationship with them because I'm gonna get them money. Same conversation I had last time in the last mayoral debate. Last mayoral debate, it was asked, how are you gonna create a great working relationship with schools, Mr. Allen? I said, that's simple. Get them money. They need money, they're in trouble. The state cut their funding, took away the personal property, tangible property taxes, cut their funding, we need to get them money. That's how we create a good working relationship. And that's how I'm going to do it, Tim. Going to get them money through economic growth.
It seems like, through this past situation with, the back and forth whether the city owed, school money or whatnot, going forward, do you see a better path for communication between the city and the schools?
Going forward from where we're at today,
Yes, I mean, like if you were mayor, how would you attack working with the schools to make sure that the city and the schools are on the same page?
I would meet with Mr. Dahlbaugh regularly, and I wouldn't just meet with Mr. Dahlbaugh by myself. I would take counsel with me.
I was gonna say, you better take somebody with you, because he don't listen very well.
It's not attack Mr. Dahlbaugh either. I would take the council president with me because we are dysfunctional as a city government and schools and city. Dysfunctional. And unless we start creating unity, we're gonna fail as a community. And that's facts for sure. Huh?
The growth of our city to the capacity of our schools. How are we gonna accommodate families that are moving in with people that are going into high school? Say you build 500 homes. Say there's one kid per family that goes to high school. How are we gonna accommodate that with the school we have? That's crazy. It's just, it's crazy. How are we gonna, you say taxes and how we're gonna, how are we gonna bring growth to the city? Our schools right now, I'm not totally against the schools. Right now I am a little bit, but because we have the same people there. I'm not gonna lie to anybody, but I feel, how are you gonna grow as a community without the school with the same leadership? I just don't get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get money. And I understand your disgruntledness with the
Very
levy.
disgruntled.
It's large. It's large. And you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that don't like it just because of the sheer size. And I get it. I get it completely. But again, it's not those kids' fault.
No, it's not.
And we have to have faith. We have to have faith and belief that this city,
I heard George Michael's song before.
well, whatever. We have to have it. We have to have it if we want to move forward as a city. If you keep staying in the past, we're never going to move forward. We're not going to progress.
That's like what he's talking about though. Now, I'm not against the schools, don't get me wrong, I've always backed them. But they've known for 10 years, at least 10 years that agreement's been going away. Every year, we're gonna lose, say, $2 million every year for the next 15 years. Whatever, I'm just throwing out numbers. Why would you concentrate on building a new school, spending money that you know you don't have, instead of trying to fix what you have to keep it going. You know, it's like me, I'm making $1,000 a week. I know every year I'm gonna lose $100 a week. I'm gonna go out and buy me a big old house and build me a big house. Makes no sense to me.
See, I'm not running for school board, I'm running for mayor.
I understand that, but I mean,
Well,
how,
you change the school board.
it's really hard,
Yeah,
like he says,
separate.
to get money. Here's more
They're
money.
separate things though, that's the thing, there's separate
Yeah.
things. And the
Totally
voters actually
separate.
voted for those schools to be built. So I'm not saying that,
Yeah,
blame the
but
school
that
board,
means-
blaming that, but
Whether
That's
they're
what
right
we're
or
doing.
when you
wrong.
want to blame for that, you gotta look internally and say, we voted for that school.
I did.
The school's a different fund, well, and that's fine, but as a city, we did. And that
Can't
fund is
afford it.
different.
Well,
You can't afford it, why would you do it?
Whether you agree with what they did or they didn't agree, is wherever you're at on that situation, that ship sailed. That's water over the dam, it's gone. That's what we're dealing with. So the best thing we can do now is get them money and vote for change. That's what we can do.
Ask me for another $1,000 a year for taxes.
I get
There
it.
you go.
You know what it's costing me. You know what it's costing me. Mr. Schuster.
Kind of in relation to the last couple of topics sort of together, the economic development and the issues with the schools. A lot of the stuff that's been discussed about the economic development also includes, I guess, what I would consider, without seeing the things, so I don't want to make too many assumptions, but some high density housing. You're talking about putting condos over top of all of these buildings. And the gentleman over here, I think our residential growth has sort of outpaced our infrastructure, it's outpaced our school system. The residential growth kind of continues without the support of any new funds coming in. But the solution is being pitched as more economical development that includes high density housing with it. So I'm struggling a little bit conceptually with how those two things are gonna play out, and really one's gonna benefit the other.
Right, it's a good question. That's a good question. What we're gonna be attracting in those homes are not families. Families are not gonna wanna live in those condos. You're gonna be looking for the millennials and professionals, so on and so forth, that wanna live in the downtown district. So that will ramp up our economic growth. But yeah, that's a great question. It's good.
I'm gonna ask a different kind of question.
Okay,
Let's just say that you received $1 million grant. How would you use that grant and why?
how would
You could use it any way you want.
What am I allowed to do?
You're allowed to use it any way you want.
What would I do with it? I would put it, I would put it into a field house. I would put it into a field house for our children. I would put it in the parks for a field house over in the city park somewhere, so that we would have amenities where we could practice baseball, so on. That's where that money would go. Steve?
The soccer complex, they've been talking about for how many years?
Well, again, I'm gonna go back to spending money, and I get a little irritated with this, so if I sound a little brash, I'm sorry. But we have spent tons of money on a master plan, another master plan, another master plan, another master plan. We just did another Parks and Rec master plan. First one we did was really good. Why don't we implement? Why don't we follow with a plan? You know, a lot of these questions you guys ask about the Harbor Freight and so on and so forth, that all happens from past. We didn't follow a plan. We need to get a plan. We need to stay fast, stay on that plan, and we need to achieve these things. That's why I want to put together a budget advisory oversight commission, so that you have accountability and transparency. You'll know where every dollar you have is went, because you'll have 7 more people looking at that stuff, qualified people, accountants. Somebody in this room said they were accountant. Hopefully they'd want to be on the commission. Those things, we can look at what we did wrong in the past, which makes us better in the future, makes us progressive in the future. That way we can balance our budgets better in the future. We can look forward to a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, and try to achieve and attain our master plans. Keep doing a master plan over and over and over again for political reasons is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it keeps costing money. Let's go with the downtown district. 5 years since it's been really good in the master plan. No zoning, nothing. This year, because I'm campaigning on it and I'm talking about it loudly, because we're losing our chance, we've just appropriated money for it. And we hired a consultant to write the zoning code. A consultant. They exist all over the place. Mr. Miller brought up Garrettsville, Hudson. Why aren't we copying, pasting, and tailoring? We don't need to spend all that money and pay somebody else. We have a great planning director. John Chakowski's a stud. He's a good man, very educated. Why are we paying all this money to somebody else to redo these things over and over and over again? And that frustrates me. That frustrates me.
A lot of money to spend.
And what I'm talking about is a big policy difference between me and Glenn. Again, I'm not beating on Glenn. It's just policy and who we are and how we grew up and what experience we have. And I just can't foresee that. We can be copy, pasting, tailoring with that zoning code. Plenty of them. Go get one. He's on the planning commission. You're still on the planning, aren't you, Marty? Marty's a smart guy. I don't know how many of you know him, but he's really intelligent. And he could help tailor that zoning code to Streetsboro. And that's his job on planning.
Jim's like, no, you're not.
Whether you say he is or not, right?
Say that.
But that's why we have commissions. That's why we have boards. That's why I want to put together a budget advisory oversight commission for transparency. Transparency and future plans, so we can look out 5, 10, 15. When you're looking out 20, 25 years, then you have a real plan. When you're looking out a year from now, hey, I'm gonna build City Hall here. No, I'm gonna build City Hall here. No, let's build City Hall here. It's not a plan. It's not spending our money wisely. Come on, get a plan. Let's stay fast. Let's get it done. Mr. Lando.
So I have a hard time understanding, and I still don't understand, maybe it's just a little confusion on my part. What is this medical facility in the city center? What is that bringing to our city? You know, it's talked about $50 million. It's a medical facility. What, can you help me understand what it's bringing to our community?
You want to talk about the city center, correct?
The proposed, yeah.
The proposed city center, well, let's go there. The proposed city center is a fire station, a city hall, which has just been added to put a senior center in it. And then it's supposed to be a medical office building and a assisted living facility. Possibly a wellness center. Possibly. We don't know if we're getting a wellness center.
Current city hall was.
Oh, okay.
What do I think it's gonna do for the city? Mike, that's a complex.
I mean, how is that drawing people to come, businesses wanting to come in and say, wow, look at this medical facility they have? I mean, we already have one across the street.
All right, let's go there. Medical office buildings. I'm gonna talk about medical office buildings. When you guys go to the doctor, how many go to the doctor? I gotta go on Tuesday because the doctor's there for 2 days. He's there Monday, Tuesday. You know why that is?
Somewhere else.
Because he's at the other place.
To beat income tax. Then they're in the next building. They're in the next building. Well, who's collecting the income tax? How does Jenny chase that? How does our finance director chase that? And this is our portion. Very tough. The medical office buildings are very tough, and you know that. Very tough for economic growth and revenue. Now, if the doctors move in there and they stay there, it'll be good. If it's a rental and they're coming in for 2-3 days a week, it's not gonna be so good. Not gonna be so good.
So are we talking about having living facilities there?
Not in the medical office building.
Okay.
We're talking about the medical office building right
Okay.
now. So that's out there. We have no idea what we're gonna get. We don't know. Medical office buildings, we have empty medical office buildings. We have them all over town. How do they do? Not doing so well, are they? Medical office buildings work really well and create economic growth when they're tied to a hospital, when they're associated with a hospital. This one, my understanding, Welty's building it for doctors, I'm not even quite sure. The deal has changed several times, so I'm not quite sure. So then we'll go into the assisted living, which is, sure, it'll be a nice complex, be a fancy nursing home, so to speak. Again, not the greatest thing for economic development, not. Wellness center, if we get one, might be good, might not. If you research them online, some of them are really good, some of them aren't. My research shows the ones tied to a hospital don't need outside funding. The ones that are tied to a hospital need outside funding. I see you shaking your head.
I just had a question, I mean, I'm not too into all of it, but just the timing of all of these things that have happened. I understand that, you know, I know we voted on a center there, a plan for that old city hall, you know, building, and that got turned down. There was supposed to be some sort of
A
rec center and
That was the
a
rec
fire
center.
thing, and then it got turned down by the voters. And then from there, I know that there's also, you know, there's obviously a plan to develop that or to do something different with this private entity, public partnership there. But we also need the schools to agree upon, you know, some sort of tax relief from that, the TIF relief. On top of that, we had a lawsuit with schools that seemed to obviously get settled pretty darn quickly, especially after we now knocked down the building that we were using for our municipal center. So we really have no choice but to do something now because the building's gone. So it just seems like all of that to me seems very, hey, we said no, so we're going to force it. We're going to knock the building down. Now we have to say yes to something because we have nothing. On top of that, the schools, hey, we had this lawsuit that we're the city, we're right about this lawsuit because we wouldn't be appealing it and doing all this stuff. We didn't think we're right, but now we need something from you. So we're wrong. We'll pay the money. We'll make good on that. There's a lot of timing things that's just, hey, I'm just a dumb guy, but it seems to all make sense that there's something here it doesn't seem quite right, you know, and that's part of, you touched on with the master plan and maybe tie it into that a little bit, like there is no plan. If you're going to have a vote and it gets turned down, then you're just going to say, well, we're knocking on the building anyway. Where's the plan? The plan clearly doesn't exist, to be quite frank.
I'm running for mayor for a reason. And I want to see a plan and I want accountability for how my money is being spent and where it's going. And I do. As far as the fire station goes and the fire station levy and the city hall and all that, if that stuff comes to fruition, we'll make it the best it can be. I don't know what's going to happen with it. Nobody knows. There's not a candidate that can honestly answer those questions today and say this is going to happen because we're living on a deficit budget. Our general fund carryover balance is very low. We're not okay financially. So nobody can say where this thing is going to go right now.
Why we knocked down the building that we were.
Well, and listen, I was against knocking the building down because it was an option. Whether you believed it was a good option or a bad option, it left an option. And I am the guy that I've always got a plan and head in one direction. Get a plan, work with your team, create a good team, let everybody know where you're heading. We're on board, and we head there. Reason I'm running. Some of them things you just stated is why I'm running.
Can you add like how much money we invested in that old city hall with the roof?
We spent in the old.
Just so you know, I mean, ceiling stuff would fall on you in council meetings.
That's
It was pretty bad.
I understand that.
You want me to go there? That's a very long story. That's a very long story.
How long were we in that building though, for the city hall?
90s?
So basically, we haven't had a plat since the 90s because it probably wasn't a great building in the 90s.
No.
Okay, good deal.
For
$120,000.
I mean,
We were advised.
Nobody in this room is going to look at that building and say that was planned to be a city hall. We understand that it wasn't.
We
It
were
was makeshift.
We
but-
were advised by Ted Manfors not to buy it when we bought it. Okay, but we bought it. And then you need to make a decision what you're gonna do with it.
I feel like there's been no plan forever.
Biggest problem with planning is the biggest problem in the city of Streetsboro. You've hit the nail on the head. The biggest problem, the reason we have lawsuits, the reason we keep getting in trouble is because of no planning. No planning, not bad planning, no planning.
And just knock it down when we're forced to do something like it.
So one of the best things I think I just heard was there's a possibility that may not go up the city hall, no matter who the candidate is, because
Nobody can answer that on.
that's fantastic.
We're living
Because
on
Amen. My question before you said that was going to be, where are the chances that we could tap the brakes on that? And because I understand we don't have a contract, right?
We
don't have a TIF, so we don't have a contract.
They've not passed the TIF yet at the school board, I don't believe. Have they, Jim? They've not passed it yet, have they?
Next board meeting.
Yeah,
it's
I
scheduled
think they
to vote.
passed it
They'll
yet.
pass
But
it.
I'm sure it's gonna pass. Yeah, I'm sure the TIF's gonna pass. So that's one of the stars that have to align.
Okay.
And then the levy needs to pass, the 0.8 mil, that has to pass for one of the stars to align. And At that point, I mean, Glenn is the mayor, so whatever happens, if me or the other candidate, me or John, were lucky enough to get there, whatever we inherit, we'll deal with and make it the best it can be.
If you inherit that and the building's not built, how would you proceed? How would you like to see the city proceed?
How would I proceed? Well, I would have to see if there's still a deal on the table and where we're at. We don't have a signed agreement today. Council passed a construction agreement. They passed it, it's not been signed. It's not been signed because there's clawbacks from the private entity. If we can't produce this, if we can't produce that, well, we're waiting on the tip. So that's just a question. It's almost impossible for me to answer because I don't know what I'm going to inherit. They don't even know what they're going to inherit.
If you could scrap that, would you scrap it?
Possibly if council was on board and the commissions were on board and we put a plan together.
Because
I can't, listen, again, that is so hard for me to give you an honest answer, other than, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I'm going to inherit. I just don't know.
Because ideally, for me, I don't like the city hall there. It's not a city center. Somebody else had mentioned, how's that a city center? That's not a city center.
It's not.
And I would love to see the development, what's the big shopping center? Market Square. I mean, you put a city hall there to anchor that and then build around it and grow it from there. And it's truly a city center, not at the corner of the busiest city.
Sounds like kind of a plan, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll be asking you to be on the commission.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
You know, Jeff, he covered it. Because again, we talk all the time. In that Market Square Plaza, built around it, how awesome would that be? So he covered it, so I'm good.
Uh-oh.
I have one last, well, ever since you said I was a smart guy.
You are. Nobody
Hey,
believes
Marty,
except your wife.
nobody believes that.
Well,
I think everybody agrees.
I've gotten a few texts from my friends, and so we're watching on YouTube, so I'm taking an opportunity to say hello to them. So you are running one of the attributes that you're promoting about yourself is obviously you've been involved with our city for a long time on council and other commissions, but also your success as a business person. And you joked earlier that, you're sitting on your hands. And I do know you, and I know you as one who is not prone to sit on your hands. So given that you are a businessman, do you have the time to be our mayor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My son took over the scrapyard 6 years ago, the recycling center. My youngest son, I worked with him for 2 years, Josh. Worked with him for 2 years because he asked me for help. And I worked with him, and he has his business off and running very well. And I have plenty of time. I have cleared my table for this. I've been training my whole life for this job, Marty.
That's a good answer.
And I'll be good at it.
Thank you.
One more question.
Oh.
No, this is an easy one.
Keep going,
Because
keep
I've been
going.
staring at it for the whole meeting. Who bought Kmart and what do we know about it?
Mike Lamp was up on that. How about Andy?
Oh, that's Mike Lamp.
All right, there you go.
Hey, nice to meet you, Mike.
I can't remember, it's a dude in Beechwood.
A dude is.
All right.
A dude in Beechwood.
Can we get that on the video, please? A dude in the beach way.
I will find out and get back to you.
Okay.
I'm not privy to
Well,
some of this stuff.
It was.
Okay, yeah. I knew it was sold.
Do you know more?
It's the name of the firm is a three-lettered firm.
Oh,
I'm thinking it's going
Yeah, it's
Clear
three-lettered.
it
It's
right
like
up.
IAC. We could look at it. It was in the record courier.
So it's not 4 letters. Dude is 4 letters. Dude is 4 letters. Like to recognize a few people. We have Steve Smith back here. He's running for judge in Portage County. Good guy. Mike Lamp is running for Ward 1 Council. I think everybody else has been introduced. Marty, he's on Planning Commission. I think that, Steve's on the Service Department. Mike's on the Service Department. Mr. Benzie's on the Service Department. Not recognizing you. Shush.
Parks and Rec.
Well, I think that's it. Is anybody else got
I
anything?
actually have one thing. Last night I was here for a baseball meeting, and there was roughly 45 people here for the baseball meeting. And I heard a story last night. Growing up in the city of Streetsboro, I played baseball, I played soccer, and our fields are great. And I heard a story last night, and I never even heard it, and I really didn't know a lot about it until you said it last night. So I would like you to share
You want me to go?
how them fields
Picking up rocks.
Okay, I'll go there.
became what they are
I'm proud of this. I'm proud of this. My brother's proud of this. My mom and dad were very instrumental in Streetsboro Junior Baseball with a lot of other parents. Mr. Walk was one of them, Mr. McMichael, Mr. Varner, so on and so forth. I can keep going. List is long, but my mom was in charge of the Women's Auxiliary, and she knew Mayor French. We had bought the property over there. The city of Streetsboro bought the big farm over there where the police station is now with City Park. It was actually a big write-up in the Akron Beacon Journal back then how far Streetsboro was ahead of all the other communities because we bought enough property to have all our amenities on one campus. Schools, fire, city hall, so on and so forth. Of course, that didn't play out very well for you. But anyhow, we were playing baseball all over town. Every church, every little field, weight school, whatever, wherever there was a backstop, we were playing baseball back. So my mom goes to Mayor French from the Women's Auxiliary and they meet down there at L&K, I believe it was at that time, yes? Was that L&K back then?
Yeah.
Where the roadhouse is now. She meets with him and tells him, look, you got all this property, we need to build a park here for these kids. And they literally draw the 4 fields and the 2 fields over by Summers on a napkin. That's where the plan came from. That's where the vision came from. So then we all sat, when we were this big, including Holly and me and several other people in town, sat down at the old Streetsboro Plaza because there was an A&P and a Sparkles. Everybody shot down there. That was your job after school. You go down there and sit and you sell brownies. Sell brownies, sell cookies, sell potato chips over and over and over. They raised like $30,000 back then. $30,000.
10 cents a bag of chips.
Oh. I can't even tell you how many we sold. I actually think that my mom has a photograph of when they were inducting it as ordaining it as a city park with her and Don Walk. And I think it was Mark McMichael and somebody else. I can't remember his name, but when they were little guys. Cool picture in a record career. But yeah, that was a good story. They raised all the money, got it done. So they're down there building it. All the dads are down there working on the fields. We're putting it together. Everybody wanted to be part of the community, so on and so forth. Mr. Meehan, Paul Meehan comes along. Paul Meehan and Mr. French didn't get along so well. He was council president. He thought Mayor French was a little political, what have you. He's trying to get reelected. Mr. Meehan comes to my mom, tells my mom, Mrs. Allen, do you know that that's not ordained a park down there and you can build these fields and they can tear them down and build some? She goes, what? Tell her, oh, we'll put a stop to that. She goes down there, shuts down the work, done. Of course, Mayor French is ringing the phone. Hey, what do we got to do, Mrs. Allen? Says, you got to ordain it as a park or we're done. So they called a special council meeting, ordained it as a park, they went back to work. That's a true story. I'm proud of my mom for that.
Yeah.
Very proud.
Your mom's an amazing woman.
So if there's nothing else, I mean, I hope you guys support me, and if you don't support me, I hope you heard what you had to hear tonight. Got your questions answered, and I believe that if we can create unity in this, we will become a community. I believe. So, there you go. Tough crowd, by the way.
Thank you.